Answer one.
Menstruation. 39 and 40.
I think the first thing that people messed up is in that question. What is it asking about?
Are you talking about the major events?
Yeah. It says what happens.
Are occurring during the menstruation in the uterus.
Yes, in the uterus. So I had probably half of you wrote something about what was happening in the ovary then. Like an egg's being released somewhere in the ovary. Which I feel like is because just not reading the question carefully enough. And then for full credit for that one, something like reduced blood flow causes cells to die off. And then for the ovary, post-ovulatory phase, corpus luteum producing estrogen and progesterone.
So basically it produces the estrogen and progesterone in that phase?
The corpus luteum makes a bunch of estrogen and progesterone. Something like that. Not a surprise, question 5 was missed by 8 out of 10 people. Well, I guess only 10 people took it at the time. So anyone who took it at the testing center isn't factored in on this one. So what force favors water moving from the capsule to the capillaries? It was D. Remember, hydrostatic pushes, osmotic pulls. So those two bring it from the space to the capillaries. It's always hard for people. Let's see. I can't do it. I'm getting some water. Got something right there. I can't talk. Can't breathe. I need to get intubated.
Okay, come on in.
Okay. All right. It's definitely a good place to have some sort of medical crisis. You know. Or where you work, too. All right. All right. All right, so 19. 19, only one person got right.
19.
I feel smart.
What is the kidney going to do in response to higher than normal pH in the blood? So higher than normal pH, is that too acidic or too basic?
It's higher than normal. It's basic.
It's too basic. So that means, what do you want to do? Excrete more hydrogen? That would be the opposite thing. What you want to do? Reabsorb less HCO3? Yes. That's B.
I just remember that horrible worksheet with math. That's what I went back to.
So that was missed a lot. And then the short answer on 27, a patient has acidosis. How do each of the following respond? 37. You almost right off that worksheet y'all did. Those exact questions. So carbonic acid, bicarbonate. Bicarbonate binds with a strong acid to make a weak acid. Carbon dioxide exhalation. Breathe more or less. If you're acidic, breathe more. Kidney excretion of H+.
Excrete more hydrogen and reabsorb more HCO3.
Excrete more hydrogen, reabsorb less HCO3 because it's a base. So that one messed people up a lot as well.
I understand that system. I get that system.
And I think the key thing for those is how does the body respond to fix it? So I had a lot of answers that were sort of I know they didn't quite say what changed. Like it didn't really describe like the body fixing the problem. You know, maybe some people wrote you breathe for B, or the kidney excretes hydrogen. Like it always does that. Is it more? Is it less? That's the kind of thing you're looking for. So same thing with these hormones that you're going to be working on. 18 on the next test. Make sure you're, explaining how they fix things, how they respond. So for example, if it asks you about pancreas and blood sugar, if all you write is the pancreas regulates blood sugar, do you think that's describing it enough?
No.
Does that show me that you know anything?
No.
It doesn't. Even though I think you might. I think you probably do. But people tend to I don't know. Anyways, let me know if you want to ask me about any of those. Rest of them.
Yeah, wouldn't you just say that pancreas will release insulin to lower your blood sugar if your blood sugar's too high?
That'd be half of it. What's the other hormone?
It inhibits glucagon, if I said that right.
So do you make glucagon when there's high blood sugar or low?
When there's low blood sugar.
Right. So you have to say all those things together. Oh, we need to finish 18.
I have a question.
Yeah, that's right. I remember.
Chapter 2, part 2.
Uh-huh.
Open it, it says chapter 15 on it.
Oh, yeah, it's
Is that
fine.
right? It's fine? Okay.
Yeah, I think I used it in Patho or something at some point, and I got the
I was
wrong.
like, it says the right one.
Let me make sure.
The right one.
While you're here, let me make sure it's got. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the right thing.
it's right.
Yeah, right. But we got to do pancreas.
No, your next one. Chapter 22, part 2 is chapter 15. See, yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was just making sure,
All right, let me get those tests, unless someone has some questions for me.
I know for the final, more kidneys. I missed that day and it screwed me.
Which one? Oh, the kidney day?
Because I was doing the CPR test. It screwed me.
Well, at least you could save someone's life if you didn't
Yay,
get
I
those
guess. questions
questions right.
Not unless their kidneys all come to me.
She's like, give them more H+, give them more H+. Whoops. Be terrible.
It turns out I missed that day.
Sorry, guys. All right. So, pancreas then. We'll do some quiz.
Someone tell Ross you can go inside.
Oh yeah, you should probably go tell him to come back. You're a good classmate.
He's been out there the whole time. He's just listening to lectures, not like he needed it. He's been like, oh yeah.
All right, so the last gland we wanted to talk about was the pancreas. What's the pancreas's main job that you learned about already? That is one of the things it does, but that's only 1% of it. What did you say? What is the pancreas supposed to, what's it? Insulin? Oh, yeah, so if you remember from the digestive system, it produces all those enzymes to break your food down. That's 99% of its mass makes that stuff. But it does have another important role, like y'all mentioned earlier, which was mean for me to ask about since I forgot that we didn't teach you yet. So insulin, glucagon, regulating blood sugar. It's kind of the primary gland that controls that. All right, so the endocrine pancreas. It's got beta cells and alpha cells. Alpha cells make glucagon, beta cells make insulin. They're basically opposite hormones, they're antagonistic. And so you think of it in two different ways. The body has to regulate blood glucose pretty finely. Too high, you have diabetes, you get all kinds of problems with blood vessels, your kidneys, all kinds of things get damaged. If it's too low, what happens to you? Pass out. You don't have any glucose for your brain cells, for your heart cells. So got to keep it at a good homeostasis range. So if it gets too high, beta cells make insulin. Insulin goes into the blood, and it's going to lower the blood glucose levels. If glucose gets too low, alpha cells make glucagon. That goes into the blood and makes glucose increase in the blood. We'll talk about how it does that. One thing people always get mixed up on is they'll get glucagon and glucose confused because they sound so similar. So write down somewhere, glucagon's a hormone, glucose is glucose. Because I see on a test slot, it'll be like, what happens when there's low blood glucose? And people will say, alpha cells release glucose, which fixes the problem. Does that sound right? All right. So I got two little diagrams for you. First one is high blood glucose. So you eat a bunch of food. Maybe there's a lot of simple carbs in it. It's getting absorbed, so your glucose levels go up. And beta cells sense that, and they make insulin. Insulin goes into the blood, and it is all of those things which are going to lower the blood glucose. First one makes sense. It tells your muscles and your liver to take glucose out of the blood and store it. Also tells your fat cells to do the same thing. Use glucose faster, make more ATP. This last one, increased triglyceride synthesis. So take the glucose out of the blood, turn it into fat, which is why you can get fat without eating any fat. Did you know that? It's pretty obvious, right? So any extra glucose is in your blood. That's mainly where it ends up. But don't tell older people that are eating their like non-fat diet and thinking they're super healthy when they're like eating all these crackers and sugary everything. But there's no fat, so they should be losing weight. And after 20 years, they're like, I don't know, not eating any fat. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know. That's because of insulin. Insulin's the problem. All right, so what about the opposite? So Ross here this morning. Did you eat anything yet today?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Oh,
I went off my little thing.
Oh man, I wanted to use you for my example. All right, well, did anyone not eat breakfast?
Yeah.
All right, any of the non-breakfast people here. So you probably have some low blood glucose when you woke up. Your body released some glucagon, so you didn't pass out. You made it here. Glucagon went in the blood, and it told your liver and your skeletal muscle, release your stored glucose into the blood, so your brain has glucose to use. Break down your fats, and the liver can even make new glucose to put into the blood as well. And the glucagon told those tissues to do all those things. Bring the glucose levels back up, stop making glucagon, you've got things fixed. And so this is why you can go, days and days without eating and not just be laying on the ground passed out or something. Because you can just make glucagon and get your stored glucose out from places. Right, any pancreas questions? We'll talk a lot more about it in patho when we do diabetes and stuff. right, what about questions on the next study guide then? Wherever that went.
I find one.
On 22?
Yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Little G, the antimicrobial peptides.
Yeah.
I know it's
So that's like little chemicals made by your body.
what
It's a chemical made by the body to kill microbes.
to kill them.
Hmm. What else? The two factors? Skeletal muscle pump and respiratory pump. Primary,
Okay, then what?
because it's where they develop.
Okay, that's what I was like with your notes. Wait a second.
So-
I have for the secondary, I have the lymph nodes, spleen. Is there anyone?
You could put the nodules, but
Okay.
I'm okay if you don't have that
Okay, I
one.
was gonna say I read it and then said it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other primary one's the red bone marrow, where you're producing white blood cells.
Is it a baby that only produces it
So in
or I remember learning about that. Like a baby doesn't use it in the red bone marrow until like it's year old.
they make, when they're younger, they can make it in a lot of places, but they do use red bone marrow too. I didn't think, like, as a fetus, though, they make it in some weird places. Like, before they're even born, they don't really have bone marrow. They make it, like, all over the place, like the liver, and I can't even remember. It's kind of crazy. It's weird to think they have their own little heart and blood and kidneys all kind of working inside there. It's pretty weird. I think we should just lay eggs, personally. And then you'd have people, like, there'd be, like, special devices to, like, hold your little eggs, you know?
I just saw Fantastic Beasts and like when he gets up off of his chair somewhere, it looks like he laid an egg, but didn't really lay an egg. Came from the system. Did you guys have to see that movie?
If y'all watch that what's that Penguin movie with Morgan Freeman? What's it called? Isn't that a cartoon? Isn't that like a real one?
I don't know what you're talking about. There's a lot of Penguin movies.
I know. It's some like documentary one. Yeah, maybe it's that one.
There's like,
I was like, no, it's like something.
I think I almost started crying when the dad like lost his little egg.
Yeah, and it goes
Like it rolled away.
Yeah, rolled away.
And you're like,
it, like,
I don't know.
died.
It's like so sad. I don't know.
I don't know why.
Have you seen that?
better.
There was
We're
a,
laying eggs.
there was
Yeah.
a video like trending, and it was like these two penguins fighting. It came back from the male came back from getting food, and then the females with another penguin fighting to the death. There were like blood everywhere. It was sad. It was like it was just this like document. It was like trending, like don't mess with my girl or something like this.
Did he win?
No, she ended up going with the
I guess she had to upgrade while he was gone.
had to upgrade.
All right, let's go and pass those on up.
I like it catching my nose.
Yeah, it's weird. I was like raining this morning, and then I was looking out the window. Like as I was looking out, it started snowing. Right at that moment, it was kind of weird.
I'm so ready for snow.
For what?
For snow. Like the type of snow that just
Like a
opens
big
up
dump
down.
snow?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be. Let's wait till after we get to Thanksgiving and back and everything, then we can have a.
I'm just like so ready for it. I'm like, can it happen already?
I lived the last 3 years like on the Palmer Divide. They'd be like, expect a little dusting in the morning. 12 inches every time.
That'd be because I need to go. 'Cause I love snow.
All right, which is incorrect? Thoracic duct drains lymph from the whole body. Right lymphatic streams to the upper right side. It's A, it's the first one. Because it's everywhere except the upper right. Not a functional lymphatic fluid. Drain, or lymphatic system, drain excess fluid, transport lipids from the GI tract, transport oxygen. Our immune system does not transport oxygen. There's no red blood cells in there. Not a secondary lymphatic organ.
Red bone marrow.
It's not the red bone marrow. If you put D, since I did say don't worry about it, I'd probably accept that one too. Not a step of phagocytosis. Hemotaxis, ingestion, apoptosis are killing. It's apoptosis. That's controlled cell death of your own cells. It's nothing to do with your body killing bacteria or something. It just kills them. It's not a nice way to go. Swallows them up and digests them into little pieces. What are the two factors that maintain the flow of lymph towards the heart?
Skeletal muscle pump and respiratory pump.
Skeletal muscle pump and respiratory pump. Nice work. All right. Yes, over here. All right. So immune system, it's my favorite system. I think it's the coolest one. So it's got the hardest job. It's got to protect us for 100 years from all these bacteria and viruses and fungus that just want to eat our insides and use us for nutrition. It's a lot harder job than just get oxygen into the blood or get nutrients from your food, right? That's not that hard. But fighting off all these bacteria. What?
I was like, when you put it that way.
I know. I think it's awesome. So we're going to do kind of the simpler, the first two lines of defense today, and then we'll do the adaptive, sort of more complex part next time. But first, what's the lymph system? Did y'all know you have a whole separate like circulatory system in the body, the lymph system? I didn't know that until I started teaching this class. I just thought it was blood, arteries, and veins. And I was like, what? Lymph system? What's that? Kind of interesting. So do you remember back when we did blood leaving, or liquid leaving the blood, hydrostatic pressure, and then it goes past the cells? Well, it has to go somewhere after that. So it goes into the lymphatic capillaries. And then from there, it gets pushed by mostly the skeletal muscle pump back up above the heart into the, eventually into the right atrium up there. And then all throughout, that's where your lymph nodes are located. It's full of white blood cells, has lots of antibodies in it. And so you could think of the flow of fluid and any random debris or small things. It's coming to the artery, into the capillaries, and then a lot of that liquid and other stuff is leaving, going to the capillaries, which is good because now if there's little pieces of viruses or bacteria or anything, they're going to go through the lymph nodes close by. So your body can recognize and fight off that infection. So there's solutes, water and white blood cells, goes back into the blood eventually. Right, so what about this one? Do I have a 6 minutes? Anybody else? There are 13 people in here. All right, I'll be satisfied with 11. So maybe we want to talk about, we got C and E, most popular. All right, final votes. All right, it's almost exactly what we had before. I think E is the best answer. So everybody agrees C is one of the answers, obviously. So B, where does interstitial fluid come from? It's blood plasma that leaks out of the capillaries. So first it's blood plasma, then it's interstitial fluid, and then it's lymph fluid. It's kind of the progression. All right, how about this one? How is lymph different from blood? Oh, there's G. I need to open it up. More answers. 7 answers. All right, so maybe chat with your group there. See what they got. All right, final votes. It is G. So it does have white blood cells, but so does blood. So that one's not right. It only goes towards the heart because blood goes towards and away from the heart. So B's right. Function is different. What would you say the main function of your blood is? There are a few functions. So move oxygen around, move carbon dioxide around, move nutrients around. Lymph is more immune function for the most part. Or collect interstitial fluid. Contains red blood cells. Not true at all. All right, so this is the stuff you did before class, but we'll just quickly review it. So what do all the different organs of the lymph system do? The thymus is where T cells mature. They start as little immature cells. And they learn basically how to fight infections in the thymus. That mostly happens when you're younger. So like a baby's thymus is a lot more active than an adult's. So you can, if I took out your thymus right now, probably you'd have no symptoms and nothing would happen to you because you already made all your T cells for the most part. Bone marrow makes all your blood cells. You already know that. Lymph nodes. That's where a lot of your immune cells sort of hang out, especially the B cells. And they filter the blood looking for infectious particles to fight against. Your spleen gets rid of red blood cells that are worn out, and it also stores lots of platelets. There's B cells in there too. In lymphatic nodules, they're basically miniature lymph nodes. They just don't look quite the same. You would think so, but actually if you don't have your spleen, you end up with higher circulating platelets because they don't have anywhere to get stored. But you don't have a lot of platelets on reserve. So if you did have like a serious injury or a surgery or something, you'd probably need like platelets and platelet infusions, but not just for regular hanging out, slicing yourself with a knife or something. Well, you know, when you're cooking and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't have to be on purpose. All right, here's your lymphatic system in one nice diagram. And you can see the capillaries and the lymphatic vessels in green. All these little nodes, those are your lymph nodes. There's the spleen. You can see the thoracic duct up there, or right there. And then, where's the other one? Here's our right lymphatic. And you'll see the little picture of the drainage. Where do you see a lot of lymph nodes? in general?
Shoulders, hips,
So yeah, we could talk about the abdomen. Why do you think you need so many down here in your abdomen? To protect your organs? Yeah, but I mean, you've got organs up here too, and there's not as many. Your heart doesn't have very many. What's different about the abdomen?
a lot of waste being stored.
Yeah, so your intestine, your large intestine is full of bacteria. So it's probably pretty common for some of them to like leak out and try to get into your blood or infect you. So you'd want lots of lymph nodes there. What about, by your sinuses? Like think of all the stuff you're being exposed to when you're breathing or trying to get in through your eyes and everything. And then I think for, these locations, like underarms and the hips, that's because you've got, your whole arm to fight infections with. Even a couple in your elbow, right?
Why the joints?
Right?
Seems like a lot of commotion.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Interesting. But that's kind of the main reason. Why do you think you'd want them spread all over, though? And not just, have one huge lymph node right here? What's the advantage to spreading them out like that? Yeah, so it's a quicker response. You could, if you find out something's trying to get you right there, you've got a lymph node right there to respond to it. All right, we'll do more of this probably in lab, but just thought I'd show you a little bit. It's kind of interesting. So your lymph nodes, obviously there's cells there, so they need a blood supply. So you've got artery and a vein bringing the oxygen in, and then you also have vessels bringing the fluid in, which are the afferent, and then there's vessels that take the lymph out. So it comes in and it filters past. There's a bunch of T cells and B cells all throughout. They're going to be exposed to this fluid, which if there's anything trying to infect you, it'll contain parts of those infectious agents. Filter on through, get collected, and get pushed back to the heart. All right, so 3 lines of defense. First is nonspecific. I should mention 3 lines of defense against pathogens. That's what we're talking about here. Viruses, bacteria, fungus, tiny little worms that want to hang out. Or not even just tiny, right? They could be huge. Take up your whole intestine.
Yeah, just ask Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith? What?
He had good stories about
Tapeworms.
worms growing up in Georgia.
Oh, nice. So first line of defense, it's physical, chemical, or genetic. It's not specific. Second, it's also not specific. Happens inside the body. It's cell-based. And then the third is specific, and antibodies and cells are involved. We're going to talk about the first and second for today. So the diagram shows all of them together. So second line of defense, we're going to look at inflammatory response, phagocytosis. It's all these non-specific but cell-based defenses. Third line, that's going to be B cells, T cells, antibodies, all that business. So first line of defense, it's a bunch of examples. Your epidermis, that blocks, it's like a physical block. Mucous membranes. Where do you have some mucous membranes? So in the sinuses, in your lungs, your intestines. So if you remember, that's like mucus with little hairs beating to kind of catch anything. It's kind of a physical barrier. Lysozyme. It's an enzyme that kills bacterial cell walls. It's in your tears, your saliva, and sweat. In micro, we do a lab where we make you cry and collect your tears and test them for potency against bacteria. It's pretty fun. Yeah, cut onions. Most of the time it doesn't work, and we just like blow air into your eye. But because I feel like sometimes onions aren't strong enough. It just depends. And then you get one that's like intense, and you just like can't stop. Or sometimes we have to resort to insults, That's fun. Flow of urine, that's considered a defense because it's like just physically getting things out. Same with defecation and your gastric juice, which is, super low pH, kills most things that you're ingesting, including that listeria that maybe I ate yesterday. Yeah. I saw that on Facebook after I got to work, and I ate hummus for breakfast.
We just had
I was like, that's great.
We just had it before too. I was like, really?
Yeah. It's okay. We're not immunocompromised. So I think we'll be okay. What brand is it with the S? What is it? Sahara? Yeah, whatever, that red one.
Yeah, that red one. Yeah, it had a certain keep by date.
Yeah, Google if you're worried about it.
Something. And Salma Cameron. I don't know.
That's crazy. And just to make it worse, it's an incubation time of 10 to 60 days.
Really?
Mhm.
I think it was corporate espionage. I think competing company put us in our.
Yeah, could be.
10 to 60 days.
Yeah. It's like, well, maybe in like January I won't be here.
That's what I was just thinking. So in a couple weeks, we'll know.
Crazy. All right, so second line of defense, what's different about it is it actually has immune cells involved. So like white blood cells like macrophages. And anything to do with inflammation or cytokines is kind of second line of defense. But it's still not specific. It's just sort of any sort of bacteria is in there has the same response of try to eat them, do some inflammation. So no B cells, no T cells, no antibodies for second line. So one of the whole kind of the basics of the immune system is how it knows whether something's foreign or not. And for the second line of defense, it basically looks at markers on the cell surface. And so your macrophages, they know what your cells look like. It's called an MHC. So it's a special little shape so that macrophages rubs up on there. It says, oh, I know you. Okay, I won't eat you. I'll leave you be. But if it finds something that doesn't have that normal shape on it, whether it's a microbe or cell from another person, it'll ingest that microbe and do phagocytosis, which is just ingest it, break it down, those steps that you looked at before class, break into little pieces. All right, so in general, how does your immune system know something is foreign? It's definitely D. All right, so I would say E is probably the best answer. So it's looking for the shape of molecules on the cell surface. That's how it knows. So E there. Looking at the shape of molecules on the cell surface, how I would describe it. All right, so we've got a few little phagocytosis videos, because this is a big part of the second line of defense. Maybe I want this one second. Let's do this one first. I think it zoomed in enough. All right, and we'll speed this along. One thing to note, bacteria and viruses are a lot smaller than your cells, especially than macrophages. Macrophages are pretty big. So we'll look at a little phagocytosis. Here's bacteria. There's like a macrophage. It's going to come along, rub up on there a little bit, and say, all right, well, I noticed this is not one of our cells because of what's on its surface, so I'm going to eat it. And then, do you remember the lysosome from back in 201? It's got all those digestive enzymes. So they have special super strong lysosomes full of enzymes that'll like chop DNA into pieces, chop proteins into pieces. So it comes in. And those little green things are all those enzymes. And it basically chops it into little pieces. So amino acids, nucleic acids. The cell can reuse it, and anything it doesn't, it just poops out over there. So that's an animation. This is what it actually looks like. Here's a whole bunch of bacteria. Here's one macrophage. And this is how fast it would actually do it. So here it comes over here. So it doesn't just do one slowly. It's like, I'm going to eat all these bacteria and break them down. Which is good, because bacteria grow pretty rapidly. So we need to be able to eat them, break them down super fast. I mean, what was that, like 100 bacteria or something? One macrophage just swallowed them all up, and it could keep going. I don't know what that's going to be. Yes?
Maybe you talked about it when we looked, but so like once the debris from the phagocytosis, when it's expelled out, does it just go into the blood and then it filters through the kidney and is it excreted? Or how do we get rid of that?
So for the most part, it's like little macromolecules, or maybe even smaller than that. So it's things your body can reuse anyways from the bacteria. It's like little like glucose and nucleic acids, little pieces of proteins. So it's not like a toxic waste product or something, which is kind of like you might be thinking.
So how do white blood cells, because white blood cells can end up in your bloodstream, right? So how do they end up there after?
So, I mean, the lymph, like that lymph fluid has white blood cells in it. It goes back into the blood, and then they travel through the blood. So you have white blood cells in your blood, in your lymph, and also like crawling around between your tissues. So especially macrophages, they're more or less everywhere in your body, looking for things trying to infect you. Which brings us to inflammation, which is how your white blood cells know to go to an area of infection. Because obviously they're kind of spread out, and you might want to bring more of them to a certain location. So there's all these different cells, including even platelets, which aren't quite, they're not really part of the immune system directly. Basophils, macrophages, mast cells, they all release cytokines. What did y'all put for cytokines? Wait, I didn't even have that on there. Does anybody know what a cytokine is? So it's a chemical signal produced by cells, and it activates the immune system. So let's say you've got some kind of, you cut yourself, there's bacteria growing in there. All these cell types, basophils, macrophages, etc., they recognize there's an infection and they send out cytokines into the blood and into the lymph fluid. Those cytokines are little signals that tell the immune system, all the immune cells come to this area and help me deal with this infection. And we're going to look at these stages. So one of the first stages is vasodilation, which helps bring more blood to the area, which should bring more of the immune cells there. Increased permeability of the capillaries. That's going to get more immune cells out of the blood into the area. Also, those two things, that causes swelling. So when you have an infection, remember when it's the hallmark says, is it red, is it swollen? That's from that. And the phagocytes leave the blood. And this third final stage is kind of clean up the area, repair the tissue. And we can see all those steps in here. And so this is called like acute or localized inflammation. List them.
Acute inflammation is the early, almost immediate reaction of tissue to the injury, and it is the first phase of wound healing. Acute inflammation can be triggered by cell or tissue damage, or by the presence of dead cells or noxious agents, such as bacteria. Acute inflammation typically occurs before the immune response becomes established and aims primarily at removing the injury-causing agent and limiting the extent of tissue damage. Acute inflammation occurs in two overlapping stages, vascular and cellular. In the vascular stage, arterial and venules near the site of injury constrict briefly, then dilate. Dilation promotes congestion, while an accompanying increase in capillary permeability leads to the movement of fluid into the affected tissue, resulting in the 5 classic signs of inflammation: redness, swelling, heat, pain, and loss of function. As fluid leaves the capillaries, the blood remaining in circulation becomes more viscous, it flows more slowly, and clotting occurs. The cellular stage of acute inflammation is initiated by the movement of phagocytic white blood cells, or leukocytes, into the area of injury.
So that's that word immigration with an E. So these white blood cells, I mean, they look pretty big, right? But they're able to like squeeze through tiny little holes in the capillary. And so they would have gotten like a cytokine from out here that tells them there's a problem.
The leukocytes begin to adhere to the vessel wall, and then, in a process called integration, squeeze through the wall and move into the inflamed tissue. The leukocytes wander through the tissue, guided by chemical signals in a process called chemocapsis. The cellular stage culminates in the leukocytes engulfing and degrading the bacteria and cellular debris in a process called phagocytosis. Products of phagocytosis, along with plasma and blood cells, form exudates, which accumulate, causing swelling and pain.
What do you think another word for exudates is? What happens if you get like an infected cut after a while? Yeah, so exudates, that's pus. So like white blood cells, dead bacteria, some red blood cells that leaked out. This one looks ready to burst. Yeah, well, this would all be happening under a pimple too. All right, so which of these do you think is a function of inflammation? All right, so it is F, A, B, and C there, all three of those. And so this could occur anywhere there's damage or an infection. So it could be at the skin, it could be in your GI tract if you've got listeria like I do, or kidney infection, UTI, anywhere you've got an infection, you'd have the kind of that same response. All right, there's another part of inflammation. So, and that's fever. So this is kind of a broader response. And there's two ways you can get a fever. One is there's some bacteria that actually make molecules that directly cause fever. They're called pyrogens. And then there's also endogenous, which is basically your immune system notices there's this infection going on, and they produce cytokines, one of which is interleukin-1, and that tells your body to basically create a fever. Does anybody remember the part of your body that's mostly in charge of your temperature? Yeah, so it's the hypothalamus that senses and changes the body's temperature, through the thyroid and everything. So this interleukin-1 goes to the hypothalamus and tells it to change the set point of your temperature. Let's not be 98.6 anymore, let's be 102, or whatever it might be. And fevers, for the most part, it's a good thing. Higher temperature makes bacteria grow slower because their enzymes don't work as well. And it also makes iron get stored a little bit more and not free in the blood, because a lot of bacterial enzymes need iron to work. And we don't have all that many enzymes that need iron except hemoglobin, which is already bound up, they can't just take it out of the hemoglobin. So less iron means bacteria go slower. And it also tells the whole immune system everywhere to make more white blood cells, make more antibodies, basically turn up the whole immune system. It's like a global signal of we're in trouble, so do something about it. What are some negative things of fevers, though, for a person? What? Yeah, so what can happen, do you think?
Cause brain damage.
Yeah, so your brain cells can get damaged, the neurons can die. Yeah, definitely. And that's because your enzymes, they work okay, but if it gets too hot, they also stop not working. So if your enzymes stop working, then your cell can't do everything it's supposed to. It also increases your metabolism, so you use up your water faster. So what do they always tell people with a fever to do? Drink more water, hydrate. For one thing, you're probably sweating because your skin doesn't know that, for that sensing, they still think they're too hot. So they sweat, and then all your metabolism is sped up, and you use water in that process. So, anyways. All right, do you think you should take Tylenol if you have a fever? All right, quick first answer. All right, so have you chat with your group? Obviously, there's no direct right answer for this one. Are you thinking of some situations maybe? So why don't you talk about some situations where you think it'd be good versus not good? All right, what are some situations where you would, do you think?
It's too high.
Okay, and what's too high for an adult?
For an adult,
Yeah, it's like 103, and for a kid,
it's like 109,
Yeah, sorry, after they're like 2 years old, I should say, or 1.5. It's like 104, right? Yeah, I'm not sure why they can handle a higher temperature. I just know that is like kind of a rule.
I think it's just because they run hotter in general. Quick little metabolism.
Yeah, maybe. And then, but what's weird though is like before 6 months, if they have a fever, it's like super, serious. That means it's a really bad infection because they usually don't. They're not supposed to get fevers that age. Right? It's before 6 months. Is anyone, kids out there? I think that's the cutoff of like, if your kid has a fever and they're that young, it's like straight to the hospital kind of thing.
Yeah, because I know like after about like 1, so it would make sense to be about 6 months. They're like, ah.
Yeah, it's like fever. Don't worry about it.
I feel like you're boiling.
Um,
Yeah, the one that you even
so what about when you wouldn't?
at the beginning, you're just starting to get into the temperature.
Yeah. Do y'all take Tylenol if you're sick? No? Y'all don't? Y'all are brave. Yeah. I try not to, but I feel like if I have to go work or something, it's like, I don't know.
I feel like we're always trying to
Or ibuprofen lowers your temperature too. Do I?
like ice on your swelling and stuff. Sometimes I'm like, maybe we should let it play out a little.
Yeah, I think if it's, there's a reason you have a fever. So if you could take it, it's probably better to just
We'll adapt it.
hydrate and let your body fight it off. But I wouldn't say I'm very good at doing that, even though I know it's probably good. If it's not going to make it this time, then I guess that's it. Yes, that's it. All right, what else we got? More second line of defense. It's interferon. So interferon is really important for getting rid of viruses. What do y'all know about viruses? Do you know anything? People would say they're not alive. What else? How do they replicate themselves? Yeah, so they're like they go into your cells and take over the machinery. And so, your cell's normally like a factory to make proteins and stuff, but the virus goes in and turns it into a virus factory. And then it breaks out, and then you got like 10,000 more viruses, and they're going to go find 10,000 more cells to take over. So they live inside your cells, reproduce in there. So we need to have some defense against that. And interferon's one of the main ones. So all of your cells, not just immune cells, any of your cells, they have a way of detecting that they're infected, and they send out interferon before they get totally taken over and die. It's like their last little gasp before they're done for. And that interferon, it tells cells close by to make their own antiviral proteins that maybe like chop up viral DNA or something. And it also tells cytotoxic T cells, which you'll see more about next time. They're your antiviral immune cells, to make more of them. So we got a little movie of that one too.
The immune system has several defense mechanisms against viral infection. Here, a virus binds to its target cell. As we saw, it fuses with the host cell and releases its genetic material into the cytoplasm. When the foreign genetic material enters the cell and starts to synthesize viral products, the cell is stimulated to make alpha and beta interferons. These interferons can signal to neighboring cells to directly inhibit viral metabolism. They do this by binding to interferon receptors, signaling the antiviral proteins. The antiviral proteins can switch the cell into a virus-resistant.
So you saw it produce those little orange things. It came over here, and the cell made these green enzymes.
State, if it should become infected. Interferon gamma, produced by the activated T cells, also induces synthesis of MHC class I molecules, which make the cell more readily recognized by cytotoxic T cells.
And so you could see those little green enzymes were breaking down the virus DNA before it could infect the cell, or at least hopefully slow it down a little bit. So there's that whole process in a diagram. I'm infected. Here's the interferon, tells this cell to make those antiviral proteins, and then maybe this cell won't get infected, hopefully. All right, so what do you think interferon does to neighboring non-immune cells? All right, so have you chat with your group for a second then. All right, final votes. All right, it is either. So make more DNA degrading enzymes and slow down protein synthesis. Why do you think they would slow down protein synthesis?
So that they don't, if they get infected, they don't keep replicating at the same speed for the virus.
Yeah, so exactly. So if they get infected, then the virus won't be able to make copies of itself as fast. Kind of like, if the enemy's coming to take over your factory that makes bombs or something, what are you going to do to that factory before you leave? Break everything you can so the enemy can't use it. Same idea with interferon. So it's hopefully you could degrade the DNA before it takes over, but if that fails, at least you've kind of broken the factory a little bit. So the viruses will be made slower. All right, so we just have time for this one. And we're going to do an analogy. Let me pass this out. I may have been watching a lot of Game of Thrones when I made this one up, perhaps. All right, so our analogy so have you do it with your group. So basically, the idea is, your body's always trying to defend itself against viruses and bacteria. It's got all these ways, just like some castle is trying to defend itself from, an attacking army or something. So see if you can match the functions of lysozyme and macrophages to what that would be in a castle. You can do it. Everybody always does. Do you have an extra one? Assignment for me to look at? Thanks. Oh, all right.
M-O-D-E.
M-O-A-A-T? Is that how you spell it? Yeah. I can't remember. You could. Feel free to look some of those things up if you can't remember what they did or what they are.
No, that teeth is that guy. Maybe you should repeat
Yeah, besides just like some system and saliva.
So what can you throw on enemy troops to stop them? Well,
Fiery arrows.
kind of. I don't think I'd disagree with that.
Well, I can't think of the one thing that, because I know like it gave me.
What about
dragons?
I don't think dragons is good for lysosome. I think it's better for something else on there.
Would be good for the inflammatory response. Probably the macrophages.
Right? Because dragons eat the soldiers, right?
Thinking the guards would like kill them.
Yeah, that would be fine too. But I like dragons better because they're like swallowing it, you know?
Dragons, we put soldiers. I feel like we didn't go as extreme as we needed to. Okay, so.
I know.
Dragons. So then, or cannon.
Or like molten. I want to say lava. I don't know why I keep saying lava.
Are you going to lava?
But what do they like dump?
Wait, isn't it oil?
Oil. There you go. Oil and tar. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Right? You could do that too. That's fine. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna
And you want-
So how would you call your neighbors?
You were saying cannon.
Bugle or something.
Okay. Yeah, so the cytokine, yeah, would be like the bugle or something. Right, because you're right, because it's like the signal to bring them. So do you got some more wall moat? I used your dragon I told everybody about the dragon. I don't know about the king though.
Tells them to go out and tells his guards to go out and the dragons and he mediates their response.
I guess so. But it's less the person that does it than the actual signal. Cytokines are the signal. That'd probably be better.
The what? What'd you say?
Like the big horn, like, oh my God, they're coming. Light the bonfire. Lord of the Rings, yeah.
So funny, I just watched Mulan 2 the other day because I was like, I don't ever seen this, and my son was like,
And so then, the cells that are making the cytokines, that'd be like the king or
wow, I have gotten so many years without it.
like the person creating the signal. Which maybe I should put that at some point on there.
The soundtrack, and then you go from there. I was that kid, my parents wouldn't let me get CDs, but I was allowed to get soundtracks.
All right, so what'd you get?
Hated vacations with me. I was such a dork.
Yeah, slick the board. So your cytokine though.
What?
So your cytokine.
We said bikini clean.
They have a button to
I
activate the
never
jackets.
listened to those, but now I can't.
A button to activate them. Is this weird, like new age? The dragons and buttons. Okay. Yeah, I guess. Because the king and queen, I wouldn't say.
Or the guards have a button.
Carry-all.
Oh, it's not the people though. Like, what is the actual cytokines? Like the signal. Yeah, so like the button and the alarm or something. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Like the button and the alarm going off. That's the cytokine.